we're going to talk a little bit about how age and agelessness works in our physiology. And then Mary Sheila, I'm going to let you take the floor, and then I'm just going to kind of add in my little bits and pieces along the way, if that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. That is something that we can never escape, really, is our body is always aging. And it's also always regenerating. And that process between aging and regeneration is what sort of slows down as we age, right? And however, how we care for ourselves, whether it's our self-care and our self-love and our nutrition and our sleep and our thoughts, they all really contribute to the aging process. And we do know in throughout the aging process there are, words that we can connect to aging, which is like oxidation or free radicals, or the ability for the body to detoxify and to keep, one of the main things in Ayurveda that I think is so important, that's really stuck with me, is to make sure that all of our pathways of elimination are open. Because when our pathways are open, things flow and they don't back up and get stuck, right? It's kind of like the end of fall when you look at a river and it's all sitting there waiting for the rain, and there's maybe moss and just all kinds of gunk. It's not, you want to jump in it. And then in the wintertime, it's really flowing, right? And it's cleansed itself. And that's really, we want to make sure all of our pathways are moving and flowing. And there's a reality of, being able to make sure that our body is able to move. One of the things I was telling Marcella that I'd heard years ago was, one of the most important things when it comes to aging and being able to continue to care for yourself is, do you have enough core strength to be able to sit down on your toilet, to go to the bathroom, and then get back up on your own? And oftentimes when they lose that core strength, which, sometimes that can happen no matter what, at a certain age, then that's when, that person might not be able to live alone anymore. But it really does become a part of how do we age with grace? How do we age, exactly what you said, with agelessness? And I think it's a mindset that we almost want to adopt as much as it is really our day-to-day actions, right? If we have whatever goal we have in with our aging process and just our health in general, like if my goal is, if I vision a path and I have a goal that's on that path, it's not, this is my day to day. This is my living. This is my everyday choices. It's not about perfection, but it's about knowing that, wow, my cells need lots of water to stay healthy and plump and vital. And my cells need lots of antioxidants or vitamins and minerals that help my body to, process the free radicals and the oxidants that are part of our breaking down process, normal process. So it all is connected to that end goal, because that end goal is, none of us are going to get out of this world alive. So the end goal of aging gracefully is just having as much quality of life as we can throughout each stage in our life.
I want to speak, can I speak to the emotional piece of this, Mary Sheila? I really love what you said about opening the pathways of elimination. So let me just make sure I've got all the body pathways of elimination. So we have the obvious ones of like urination, defecation. We have sweat. We have tears. We have like we can get rashes. We can, like our skin, my understanding is like our skin is the last organ. Like if everything else fails, it just pushes out through the skin, whatever it is that needs to be moved on. But there's also another pathway of elimination, which is the emotional pathway or the psychic pathway or the spiritual pathway. So you mentioned something about mindset here. So like the mindset of agelessness, clean as you go. Okay, so maybe, let's see, I want to talk about clean as you go from an emotional point of view. So to me, when I think emotionally about clean as you go, if I'm upset about something, if I'm angry, if I'm resentful, if I'm scared, if I'm, if I'm really literally off center in any way, in a way that doesn't feel good, that I have tools to come back to myself and check in with myself and move through whatever toxins are coming up so that I can get back to my emotional homeostasis. So I'm imagining that if I have that as a practice, if I emotionally, physically, psychically clean as I go, then it gets easier for the pathways of physiology. The whole idea of like care of the soul is what comes to me when I think about aging and agelessness. Like for myself, I want to speak about my own experience for a moment if I can. So next month in about 6 weeks, I'm going to turn 59. And, I'm looking at 60 coming down the pike. And, I'm saying, bring it on. Like, I feel for myself more vital, better in my body than I did when I was 40. In some ways, than I did when I was 30. And I was doing yoga this morning thinking about this call. And my yoga mat has become like a sacred temple. That when I get on that mat, the rest of the world disappears and my body gets to call the shots in terms of what I do. And I was thinking about that and how having a movement practice of some kind, something that works for you. You don't have to become like a yoga chick, or you don't have to become like a lycra gym chick, but to have some way that your body gets to move outside of its habitual pattern and express some joy or express some vitality. That could be all kinds of things for you, but I think that is one of the key pieces of agelessness. And the other, as I was saying earlier, is, having time where you simply are devoting yourself to self care. It's like a cleaning as you go self care day or half a day, like where you take time in your calendar and you block it out. It could be time every day, time once a week, time once a month, but some time that you block out and you say, I am dedicating this time to myself. Yeah, the cleaning as you go, I think, is an important piece of kindling and keeping alive what I experience within myself as like a beautiful, joyful, dancing maiden in the center of my heart. So that even as my body succumbs to the inevitable ravages of time, there's something internal that is fresh, clean, youthful, vibrant. So there's some sense of like my soul being current and up to date, even as my body is going through the signs of aging.
Yeah. And so here's a question I want to ask everybody is and I'll ask you too, Marcella, like if you were to think about like what age do you feel like your soul is at compared to your body?
15.
Okay.
I can really connect. I can connect to being 15 years old in my soul.
Okay. So like I think hold that
Right.
number. Hold that because like we have that number and it reminds me one time I was listening to actually Alan Alda who's on MASH, right? And he was saying, I feel like I'm still blah, blah, blah age. And it was like, maybe a 30-year-old. And he's like, and then I look in the mirror and I'm like, whoa, who's that old guy? But I think because we have kind of like a soul age and like be okay, like honor that within yourself because that is really, that's like claiming our vitality, right? And the more we can really hold that peace and that positivity and that youthfulness, like we can do anything. It doesn't have to be where things start falling apart at a certain age. I mean, yes, our body changes. And I can't tell you how many times, few years ago sitting at a baseball game when my daughter was playing softball, and this woman behind me like, "Oh, ever since I hit 40, everything, is falling apart." And I'm just sitting there and I look back. And it's like that's fine. You can have that mindset, but that is not my mindset. Like, I feel stronger because I feel more connected to my why, about why I want my health and my vitality and my agelessness than I do now than I did when I was younger. So that reflects on my choices. And I am by far not perfect with, even though I'm a nutritionist and I work, it's not like I'm Miss Perfect, never eating anything or whatever wrong. But that path, that journey from here to here is me taking care of the best care of myself that I can on a day-to-day basis, doing as much as I can in a busy day. Again, it's not about perfection. It's just about the effort that I put into it, loving myself. And that's the journey. But also, like, we have to also have fun with it. Like, we have to find playfulness and joy in caring for ourselves because we can't take ourselves too seriously, and that's where I think it can be fun. And that's the mindset. I don't want to be like this, lady saying after 40. I want to be like, hey, I feel like I'm in my 30s still. I've really liked my 30s. Um, and I also am liking my 40s. And so, maybe I'll find a place within there. I don't know. But like, find that soul age and just own it.